Whenever I hear words like virtue or righteousness, my brain sort of defaults to this soft, fuzzy image. It feels subjective.
The be nice philosophy.
Exactly. Like, as long as you have good intentions, you're checking the box. But today, we are looking at a stack of sources that completely flips that idea on its head.
It really does.
The argument here is that being steadfast isn't about fuzzy feelings. It's actually more like physics. It's geometry. You've got vectors, tension, limits. A very specific kind of structural engineering.
As a fascinating way to frame it, we're diving into a concept today that's usually translated as steadfastness, which, I'll be honest, sounds a little dry, a little static.
Right.
But the term is Istiqāmah. And when you actually dig into the source material, the Quranic path of Istiqāmah, you realize this isn't about standing still like a statue at all. It's about movement and resistance.
And precision. That's the word that kept jumping out at me. Precision. So our mission for this deep dive is to decode what Istiqāmah actually looks like. Is it just don't do bad things, or is it something more active?
And we've got some incredible case studies. From prophets facing down tyrants to a near civil war stopped by a single sentence.
It sounds like we should start by, stripping away the English translation for a second.
We have to. That's where the geometry comes in.
Okay, let's get technical. The sources highlight the root letters QWM. What are we actually looking at here linguistically?
So QWM carries a heavy load. It implies a group, but specifically it implies intisab, which means standing up straight, and azam, which is resolve, determination.
So it's active. It's the opposite of just sitting down.
Exactly. It's an active posture. But here's the key insight from the text that changes everything.
Yeah.
You can't understand Istiqāmah without understanding its polar opposite.
Which is?
Tagyan.
Tagyan. Okay, I've heard that translated as tyranny, usually, like a dictator is a tagut.
Usually, yes, but literally. It means to overflow, to cross a boundary.
Oh, interesting.
Think of a river flooding its banks. That's Tagyan. It's force without a container. So Istiqāmah is the mathematical opposite. It's staying exactly within the limit.
So if Tagyan is the flood destroying the village, Istiqāmah is the water flowing perfectly within the channel.
You got it, precisely. Al-Jurjani, who's cited in our source, he defines it as maintaining the path of moderation in everything. And he means everything. Food, drink, clothes, your worship.
So no swerving.
No swerving left into negligence and no swerving right into excess. You're maintaining a straight line in a world that is constantly trying to bend you.
That's a great image. It sounds active. Like it takes energy to keep the car in the lane. Now, the source material throws a lot of other words at us. It feels like there's a whole spectrum of words that mean straight or correct.
They all have different flavors, and the nuance changes the application. For example, there's izaba. This means hitting the mark.
Like archery.
Exactly like archery. It's about precision in timing and action, doing the right work at the right moment.
So it's about efficiency, accuracy. What about the others?
Then you have istiwa. Now, this one is interesting. Istiwa is about straightening something that was crooked. It implies there was a bend, a defect, and you fixed it. It's corrective.
So istiwa is the body shop. You go there after you've crashed.
Right. But Istiqāmah, that's the broader continuous state, the preventative state. It's remaining upright so you don't need the body shop. And then there's rushed.
Rushed. I see that as guidance a lot.
It is guidance, but think of it as the practical how-to. If Istiqāmah is the destination, staying on the path rushed is the strategy. It's the map you hold in your hand.
The source threw a data point at us that I found surprising. The root QWM, that base concept of standing, appears 660 times in the Qur'an. That's massive.
It's central theme of the entire book. It's constantly telling you to stand up, but the specific form Istiqāmah appears about 47 times.
So while standing is everywhere, this specific state is a highlighted category.
It's the elite category, the gold standard of human behavior.
Speaking of elite, let's talk about the practitioners. The source profiles the prophets, not just as good guys, but on how they embody this specific balance. It starts with Ibrahim, or Abraham.
The heavyweight. The Qur'an calls him an ummah, a nation in himself.
Which is just a staggering title for one man.
It is. It implies his spiritual gravity was equal to a whole civilization. But look at why he's called the father of Istiqāmah. We know he was Hanif, inclining to truth. But the specific trait the source highlights is that he was shakirli anamihi, thankful for God's blessings.
Wait, connect those dots for me. How does gratitude lead to steadfastness? I usually think of steadfastness as just grit. clenching your teeth and enduring.
That's the modern misconception, isn't it? We think endurance is about hardness. But for Ibrahim, his balance came from recognizing the source of his blessings. When you're profoundly grateful, you don't look for alternatives. You don't wander.
Because you're satisfied with your provider.
Exactly. His stability wasn't just willpower, it was appreciation. He didn't swerve because he was happy right where he was.
That's profound. Okay, let's shift to a very different vibe. Musa and Harun. Moses and Aaron. The source highlights a really dramatic moment here. High conflict.
This is one of the most powerful examples. So, picture the scene. Musa has been dealing with Pharaoh for years, and Pharaoh is the ultimate example of Tagyan. He's crossed every limit.
He's the flood in human form.
He is the flood. And Musa finally prays against him. He asks God to harden their hearts so they don't believe until they see the punishment. It's a heavy, final prayer. He's done.
He's saying they've gone too far, take them down.
And God responds immediately. He says, your prayer has been answered. But then right away comes the instruction, Istiqāmah. So stand straight, speaking to both of them.
That seems almost unrelated. Like, okay, I'll destroy your enemy, but you two stand up straight. Why give that order right then?
Because that's the critical link between victory and discipline. God is telling them, I will handle the outcome. Your job right now is to remain balanced. Don't follow the path of the ignorant.
I see. It's a warning not to let the conflict corrupt them.
Exactly. It's so easy when you're fighting a monster to become a monster. To let your hatred push you into transgression, God is saying, you won. Now, don't lose yourself.
That's a lesson for banning. Well, for anyone in any conflict. Win the battle, but keep your geometry perfect. And then we get to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The command he gets seems to take this to another level.
It is the verse that reportedly aged him. Fastaqim kama umirta. Stand straight as you have been commanded.
As you have been commanded, not as you feel like.
And not even as you think is best. It's strict adherence. But here's the crucial detail the source points out. The command wasn't just for him, the verse continues, and those who have turned with you.
It's collective order?
Yes. And it comes with that same warning. Let taqwā. Do not transgress. Even when you're on the right path, don't go to extremes. Don't cross the limit.
It's like walking a tightrope. You can fall off by jumping, sure, but you can also fall off just by leaning too far into your correction.
That's a brilliant way to put it. Istiqāmah isn't just about direction. It's about not overcorrecting.
Okay, so we've got the physics of it. We've got the role models. I want the toolkit. How does one actually do this? The source gives us some really interesting tools. One of them involves a rope and a near war.
The story of Shas bin Qays, this is a fascinating anecdote that really illustrates the how-to.
Right, set the scene for us.
So Shas was an elderly Jewish man in Medina. He walks by and sees the Arus and Khazraj tribes. Now, for decades, they had been bitter, bloody enemies.
Killing each other's fathers and sons.
Absolutely. But now, united by Islam, they're sitting together laughing.
And he didn't like that.
He hated it. It burned him to see them united. So he plays a psychological game. He sends a young man to sit with them and recite poetry about the Battle of Bu'ath.
Their bloodiest civil war. He's intentionally triggering their generational trauma.
He is trolling them in real life. And it worked. The text says they started arguing, then shouting, tempers flared. Then they jumped up, calling for their weapons.
From laughing to war in minutes.
Wow. It shows how fragile that stability is. One poem broke their Istiqāmah. The prophet rushed over, visibly upset, and said, "Are you returning to the calls of ignorance while I am among you?" And then the verse was revealed, "Hold fast to the rope of God all together."
So the tool for Istiqāmah here is holding fast. Ittisam.
Yes, the rope is the connection to God. The lesson is that horizontally between people, things are unstable. Without that vertical connection holding the rope, we just slide back into chaos. Istiqāmah isn't something you generate internally. It's something you hold on to.
That's comforting, actually. You don't have to be the source of stability. You just have to grip the thing that is stable.
Exactly. If the ground is shaking, you hold the pillar.
Now, here's an example I wasn't expecting. The jinn.
Chuckles.
Yes.
The jinn.
Why are they a model for Istiqāmah?
It's a lesson in responsiveness. The jinn hear the Qur'an and they say, "We have heard a wonderful Qur'an that guides to Rushd." They immediately recognize the map.
They didn't debate it or form a committee?
No. They heard the guidance toward Istiqāmah and said, "Okay, we believe." They just saw the logic and took it. It's about stripping away bias.
There's another tool, repentance. And a story about Thabit bin Qays.
Right, Thabit. This is a touching story. A verse came down warning people not to raise their voices above the prophet's voice. Now Thabit had a naturally loud voice.
And he thought it was about him. He thought he was doomed.
He went home and hid, weeping. He thought his Istiqāmah was broken forever. The prophet eventually asked about him and sent word, "You are not one of them. You will be one of the people of paradise."
So the lesson is that Istiqāmah isn't about being perfect.
No, it's about the return. Thabit's fear and his desire to correct himself was the Istiqāmah. Repentance is the tool that resets the geometry. If you swerve, you steer back. That steering is the path.
The text also lists knowledge as a tool. It says only the ulama, the knowledgeable, truly fear God. Now, usually fear paralyzes people. Why is fear a tool here?
It's not fear like being scared of a ghost. It's knowing the stakes. Imagine you're an electrician working with high voltage lines. An expert fears that electricity more than a novice does. Why?
Because the expert knows exactly what happens if you touch the wrong wire.
Exactly. The novice might be casual. The expert is steadfast. They follow the protocols perfectly because they understand the power they're dealing with. That's why knowledge leads to Istiqāmah. You know the consequences of the swerve.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, but of course, there are things trying to push us into that high voltage wire. We have to talk about the antagonist.
The obstacle.
Iblis, Satan. The source is very specific about his strategy. He doesn't just hang out in the bars and casinos, does he?
No. The verse quoted is chilling. Iblis says, "I will surely sit for them on your straight path."
He's sitting on the path.
That's his ambush point. He's targeting the people trying to be steadfast. And the source details his primary weapon, Tazian. Making the bad look good. Dressing up a sin as a virtue. Dressing up taqwā and justice. He decorates the detour so it looks better than the straight road. He's the ultimate marketer.
And he creates hawa, whim, or desire.
The quickest way to break Istiqāmah,
That.
it's that impulse to do what you want, when you want, regardless of the geometry.
And if you follow that whim, you end up with this really heavy concept the source brings up, ma'isha dank, the narrow life.
This is the consequence. Dank means narrow, squeezed. The commentary notes that you can be wealthy, have power, everything, but if you turn away from Istiqāmah, your life becomes narrow.
Is that psychological?
It's spiritual and psychological, that feeling of constant anxiety that nothing is ever enough. You have the mansion, but the walls feel like they're closing in. That is ma'isha dank.
But that brings us perfectly to the payoff, because if we're going to do all this work, what do we get? The source opens with a visual metaphor, water.
Water in abundance, mein Gadaka. If they had remained straight on the way, we would have given them water in abundance.
In a desert context, that's everything.
It's life itself. But it's also a metaphor for rescue provision in general. The text is making a direct link. Physical abundance is tied to spiritual uprightness.
But then it gets personal. There's this scene described about angels descending.
At the most critical moments, death, the grave. The angels descend on those who were steadfast and say, "Do not fear and do not grieve."
I highlighted this part. The psychological breakdown in the text is beautiful. Why those two specific emotions?
Well, think about it. Fear is always about the future, what's going to happen to me. Grief is always about the past, what I regret, what I lost.
So by removing fear and grief,
You're liberated from the burdens of time. Istiqāmah cures both. You don't fear the future because you trust the destination. You don't grieve the past because you lived correctly. Total peace.
that's incredible. And the final status mentioned, I love this word, is being a guest.
Nuzul. Yes. In the afterlife, the steadfast person is described as having nuzul. Nuzul is the hospitality prepared specifically for a guest.
What's the distinction? Why not just a resident?
Think about being a tenant in an apartment versus being a guest of honor at a banquet. A tenant pays rent. A tenant worries. A guest worries about nothing.
The responsibility shifts to the host.
Exactly. The text is telling us, be steadfast here, do the hard work of geometry here, and there you will be the guest of God. You retire from the struggle.
Wow. It really reframes the whole struggle, doesn't it?
It does.
So let's bring this home. Istiqāmah isn't standing still. It's the dynamic geometry of the soul, resisting the flood of taqwā.
And it's sustained by gratitude, like Ibrahim. It's the middle path between negligence and excess.
And it's the only way to avoid that narrow life.
I want to leave the listener with one final thought from the source that really stuck with me. It's about blindness.
Yes, this is a heavy note to end on. The source quotes the verse, "He who turns away, we will raise him up blind on the day of resurrection." And the person asks, "My Lord, why have you raised me blind while I was seeing?"
They had 20/20 vision in this life. They had physical vision, but the answer comes back. Thus did our signs come to you, and you forgot them, and thus will you this day be forgotten.
It makes you wonder, is the clarity we think we have right now real?
That's the question. Are we seeing things as they really are, or are we just seeing the decorations that Iblis put up? Istiqāmah is the ability to see the road clearly.
It's a lot to mull over. Are we walking straight or are we just walking? Thank you so much for breaking this down with us.
My pleasure.
And thank you to you, the learner, for joining us on this deep dive. Hopefully your path feels a little straighter today. Until next time.